On your feet! Get them going!
Boy, it's got to be my sound card. I still can't hear nothing. I can't hear nothing coming from my computer. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Cross-Examinations Live. I'm your host, Mike S. Miller. Once again, in the Reconstruction Zone, reconstructing your faith from the fallacies that others might foist upon you as if they know what they're talking about, and they're just perfect in their understanding of everything. Right. Look, I'm not perfect in my understanding of everything, and feel free to call me on something when I get something wrong. That's usually I want that because I don't want to be wrong. I know, weird, right? I don't want to be wrong, so I would like to be corrected, as embarrassing as it may be, because I don't want to be wrong. I want to know what's right. Everybody should think like that. But there's a guy in the comments section, once again with the old, can you just give me one piece of evidence? Or what did he say? Can you just demonstrate that God is real? I'm like, yeah, I can evidence it. I can prove it even, if you are willing to believe that God is real. This is a very simple matter of will. If you will not accept that God is real, then no evidence, no fact, no demonstration can convince you of it, because it is not an act of truth seeking. You're not seeking the truth. You have taken your position and you have decided that you will not believe any evidence that shows that God is real or that points to God being real. You will not. It is an act of will. They have Moses and the prophets, Jesus said. If they believe not them, they will not believe if a man rises from the dead in front of them. Ugh, I should wash my hands before I came back inside. It's all a matter of will. That's why, honestly, I prefer he who says he's an agnostic to he who says he's an atheist. It's like the atheist has claimed a position. I've claimed a position. I do not, and I will not, believe in God. The atheist says, I don't know, but I am willing to be convinced. Now, whether or not they're honest, I can't read anyone's heart. I can't read anyone's mind. So they may claim that they're an agnostic, but really they are an atheist. They may claim they're an atheist, but really they're an agnostic. I'd rather state, again, that's just how I was raised as an agnostic, to not stake that claim, that absolutist claim. I do not, and I will not believe in God. That's being completely closed-minded. And then when you see the miracles, you see the the impossible design, the what science calls the illusion of design, you're still so entrenched in your will that there is no God. Sorry, that's just something I'm dealing with in the comment section. But speaking of the comment section, hold on, I gotta adjust my. I feel like I'm being teleported here, transported. Where's my virtual camera fade? Nope. Oh, Scotty's beaming me up too much now. There we go. That's better. All right. Is that better? Or is now my face being teleported. Gosh, this thing is... It doesn't go like... let's just say this is not fine-tuned technology. Is that good? That's as good as it's going to get, I think. It's more embarrassing to hold to a position that is wrong than to be corrected. Right. Exactly. Don't entrench yourself in false beliefs. Let's say hi to everybody. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Tina. Ryder. Justin. Corpse Grinder is here. Chuck. What's up, Chuck? Art March Hair. I think that's everybody who's said hello so far. Corpse Grinder asks, are you excited about the red cow sacrifice? This is the first I've heard about it. I mean, other than the fact that they've been breeding red cows for the first time in 2,000 years, which is... I was excited about that 30 years ago when they started doing it. But I think now they have... There wasn't a red cow born like in 2,000 years. And then one was born in like the early 90s, I think. And then they started breeding it. See, the for those who don't know, in order to, what do they call it? Consecrate a new temple, they have to sacrifice a red cow, a red heifer. So in order for there to be a third temple, there has to be an unblemished, perfect red heifer. Well, there was 2,000 years there where there were no red heifers. So suddenly, about 30 years ago, I wonder if it's that generation thing. This generation shall not pass. 40 years is a generation. About 30 years ago, a red heifer was born in Israel, and they started breeding it. And I think just recently, they had a perfect, unblemished red heifer. And very interesting stuff. If you are a believer in prophecy, and they have everything they need otherwise to rebuild the third temple, or to build a third temple, not rebuild. I guess it's rebuilding the temple. Except there's two possible scenarios here. One, they put this little Dome of the Rock thing where the temple's supposed to be, or they got the math wrong, the geography wrong, and actually, where the Dome of the Rock, gosh, I could be wrong. Again, this is a thing where I could be wrong because this has been a long time since I studied or read anything about this. That the Dome of the Rock might be in what's called the it's not patio, courtyard, the courtyard of the Gentiles. Something like that. Anyways, the Dome of the Rock might be in the place where it would not stop the temple from being rebuilt. So I'm not 100% sure what is correct there. But we do have a red heifer now. So they could let the sacrificings begin. Mac, what's the best miracle you've seen, and how would you convince others that the laws of physics have been broken? Well, it's not necessarily the laws of physics. It's more along the lines of the laws of nature? I don't know if those are the same thing. sometimes miracles are not, well, okay, that I've seen personally. Well, we healed a cat with a broken back. That's me and my son praying over it after it broke its back. That was our cat. What the hell was that cat's name? Baron. It was named after that cat from The Cat Returns. Baron something or other. Humperdinck. I don't know. Obviously, I don't have any. We didn't do an X-ray or anything, so we don't have any like proof that I could prove to you that the laws of physics have been broken. But it was a miracle for us. That was freaking fantastic. An amazing one. No laws of physics had been broken though. Okay, you know what? You want a laws of physics, laws of nature, whatever one. My pastor, and this wasn't my witness, but he has the X-rays to prove this. My pastor's kid had 14 cavities, and I guess he hadn't been to the dentist in a while, and he was just petrified because they're going to be in there for all day, grinding his teeth down and putting in fillers and all that stuff. And then they they're out there talking and blah 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 blah, and then they come back in, and the dentist, he had already had his first appointment. He got the thing. He's coming in. This appointment was to fill the cavities. And before they went in to fill the cavities, the dentist took another X-ray, as they are wont to do. Probably just wanted to charge him more. And he comes back out like dumbfounded. He's like, his teeth are perfect. And they showed him the X-ray, and they showed him his teeth, and he had no cavities. And none of them were praying for him except AJ. AJ was his little brother, who was just, they left him in the room with, oh gosh darn it, he's a worship leader and I'm blanking on his name. Anyways, with his older brother, and they're like, AJ, were you praying for your brother? He's like, yeah. He's like, and so that's a miracle. I don't know if it goes beyond the laws of physics. It goes outside the laws of nature, because generally speaking, I mean, I'm one who believes that cavities can heal themselves over time if you are taking the right course of vitamin C, calcium, stuff like that, rebuilding the bacterial, the good bacteria in your mouth, that kind of thing. But just to have that happen super quickly, like that seems miraculous in the going against the laws of nature, not against the laws of physics, but just reversing all that suddenly was pretty interesting to me. I had another pastor once. He actually, he stuck his fingers in the ears. He was on a mission trip in Mexico, and he stuck his ears in the I keep saying stuck his ears. He stuck his fingers in the ears, and I didn't witness this, so it's like I trust my pastor to not be lying to me. Weird, right? But you obviously couldn't. If you refuse to believe this sort of thing happens, then you obviously would be like, oh, he's lying. And then you just don't trust people who make their living trying to follow the laws, not the laws, but trying to follow the morality of the Bible, which utmost is don't lie. So he stuck his fingers in the ears of a deaf girl at like an orphanage and just prayed for healing, and she was healed. I've prayed. My wife was one time in, I'm not going to say I have the gift of healing. I'm just saying that God does answer prayers. My wife was in just horrible pain, and I can't remember. It was like a stomach pain. Stomach pains are like the freaking worst, right? And she was just wrecking in pain. And I didn't even tell her I was praying for her. I just laid hands on her while we were in bed. And I just started thanking God for healing her. I just said, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you for healing. Thank you for taking her pain away." Blah, blah. And after just a couple of minutes, she had just fallen asleep because she was so exhausted from being in pain for so long. She had just fallen asleep and the pain was gone. So these are just personal things. If you want just an interesting, fun story, and this was a great witness to my family because my brother is still an agnostic and he didn't raise his children with any faith or anything like that. One time, and I know everybody else here has heard this story, but it was just the most amazing. Oh, hold on. I live in San Diego. Okay, San Diego, this goes against the laws of physics. If you are familiar with downtown San Diego, you will know that parking in downtown San Diego can take you, if you don't want to pay for a spot, because I'm a cheap guy, it can take you an hour to find a parking spot downtown San Diego. So every time I know I have to park downtown, as soon as I leave the house, I start praying for a parking spot. Everybody who drives with me downtown can attest to this reality. Every time, maybe not every time, I'm going to say at least 9 times out of 10, I start praying and I pray for guidance when I'm downtown to lead me to a parking spot. And I'm telling you, it takes me about 5 minutes to find parking, if that. Sometimes it's just right in front of wherever I'm going. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. So if you know anybody from downtown San Diego, ask them how, or lives in San Diego, ask them how hard it is to find parking in downtown San Diego. And you will be like, okay, that definitely breaks the laws of physics. But it's a regular thing I do. I'm like, look, if God can move mountains, he can find me a parking spot. So it's like, you have not because you ask not. So I just ask. And I know it's a silly thing to pray for. It's like, why am I wasting God's time? But he's blessing me with that time of not trying to find parking. So you can pray for anything. There's nothing too big or too small for God. All right, the fun one. My nephew, Cruz, God rest his soul, he passed away when he was 14. This was actually passed away probably the year after this happened. They stayed at our house for like a week or two. They live up in Portland. And it was time to go. It was time to go, so they got all their stuff together. And then they were in a panic because they couldn't find Cruz's DS. It's a little Nintendo dual screen video game thing. And they were distressed and they didn't want to leave it. And Cruz was getting all upset and everybody's looking everywhere and throwing couch cushions and this and that everywhere. And we were looking for about 45 minutes, probably, maybe an hour. I don't know. And Tom's just like, we have to freaking go. If you find it, just mail it to us. And I'm like, and Cruz was really super because it's a long drive back to Portland. He didn't want to go without his DS. And so I just sat down in the hallway and I started praying. I'm like, Lord, if you will, could you just guide me to this DS? And I stood up. I had my eyes closed the whole time. I stood up and I just put my arms out so I was touching each side of the hallway, just like I do with parking. It's really weird. When I'm parking, it's like when I get to an intersection, I sort of envision 3 arrows, straight, left, or right. And like one of them sort of visualizes like lighting up. I don't know. One of them like is emphasized. And I go, okay, go right. And I go right. And it's like God just guiding me with arrows. So anyways, I was like, do that, but with the DS. So I put my hands on the wall. I started walking down the hall and I felt my daughter's doorway. And I'm like, okay, this is the way. And so I turn into my daughter's doorway and I'm walking and I feel turn right. and I turn right about 40 degrees, and I walk, and I bump into something, and I just reach down. And so I just reached down. I felt that it was a bunch of stuffed animals, and I just, where my hand was, I reached straight through the stuffed animal pile, and I just wrapped my hand around the DS. I didn't like dig through the pile of thing. I just and grabbed it. I was guided directly to the DS with my eyes closed. And I was like, guys. And they're like, what? And I told them all what happened. They're like, what? So that was like the most fun miracle answered, however you want to phrase it. But you know what? If you want to think I'm lying, if you want to think like I hid it there and therefore I wanted everyone to freak out for 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it was, and I just assumed nobody would like look through the animal pile. I mean, I'd have to have like figured all this stuff out before and then wasted all that time to be like, I'm a charlatan. I'm going to just make up that I prayed for something and found it. God guides me for praying. He can guide me to find a DS. I do this I've done this like I couldn't remember where I put my wallet, right? And I'm like, same thing. Look all over the house, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why don't I pray about this? And I'm like, Lord, can you just remind me where I put, in the vision of where I put it just flashed in my head. I'm like, oh, it's on Micah's nightstand. And I just walked in there and grabbed it. It's like that kind of stuff, right? Like, just bring it back to my mind where the heck I put this thing. That's not a huge miracle. He just reminded me. But, you know, stuff like that. I hate it when I lose stuff. I'm like, would you just pray about it? The Jews are trying to usher in the Antichrist. How exciting. The Antichrist is Muslim, Larry. Come on. There will be no third temple. Oh, are you a prophet? Corpse Grinder. It happened soon, if not already. They did a mock trial in full dress the other day. A mock trial? Huh. Define what a miracle actually is. A miracle is God acting outside of the normal laws of nature that he's set in place. Does that work? I don't know. Maybe someone else has a better definition. How do you know that praying was the reason your cat recovered? Well, he couldn't use his legs. We were going to take him and get him euthanized. My son Michael was crying. And I asked him, I said, do you want to pray and see if God will heal him? And so we put our hands on him before we went and got him killed for being half a cat. And while we were praying and thanking God for his healing, his leg, for the first time, started kicking. And Mike and I looked at each other like, and we just started smiling. And we just kept praying. And then he got better. He got all better. Could that just be a coincidence? Sure. Because if you are not willing to believe in miracles, then you'll say anything is a coincidence. Someone could rise from the dead in front of you. And you'd say, wow, what a bizarre act of natural forces. That something in him must have not really. He's only mostly dead. If you will not believe, you cannot believe. But it is an act of will. You've chosen to reject every bit of evidence. Right? What is it in the movie Science? He was talking about Albert Einstein or something. He says, I think he was quoting Albert Einstein. He says, Some people go through life as if nothing is a miracle. And some people go through life as if everything is a miracle. Of those two groups of people, who do you think is happier? Someone who goes through his life grateful and thankful for everything that happens, or someone who goes through their life thinking everything is just a huge mistake by some random cosmic unpersonal force of something that I still don't understand. It's like people want to be miserable. I'm not miserable. Actually, I'm not saying you're gonna be miserable. I'm just saying in general, that's a look. It's not faith in God that leads to nihilism. I mean, I was perfectly happy as an agnostic, so it's not. I'm not going to say you can live a life without God and not be a happy person. You can be. The palsy in my right arm was healed with prayer. My arm was medically tested from my elbow down, dead. Had to wear a brace for months. How do you know praying was the reason? Again, this is the same thing. Your pastor claimed that the story he told you was true. Claims are not evidence. Evidence is not proof to anyone who, again, refuses to believe. That's an act of will, not an act of reason. Literally the same day I started having feeling and movement in my thumb and index finger. Pastors lie, right? See, you won't believe anyone or anything. You are choosing not to believe. That's fine. That's your choice. But don't pretend like you're a skeptic who just hasn't seen or heard anything that's believable. Because to someone who will not believe, nothing is believable. This is the whole argument. This is the whole point I started this show with today. He who will not believe will not believe. That's bottom line. And you sound like that. Well, doctors said it was dead. I'd never be able to use it again. I had a brain tumor, writer says, larger than a golf ball in my head. Doctors said I should be dead. Are there other reasons why a recovery is possible? Example, misdiagnose. How do you misdiagnose your arm being dead? The doc that did the testing freaked out the next appointment I had when I showed him how everything was starting to work and I was starting to be able to feel in my arm. I don't think so. I had a couple of different tests done. They stuck pins all up and down my arm to read whatever they were reading. That was one of the tests. Sorry, but I can't remember what that test was called. I went to 2 different specialists. Max says, palsy of various types can recover normality without treatment. Are you a doctor? No. Why do you ask? Are you a doctor? No. Why do you ask? I think it's pretty obvious why she's asking, Max. Bruno says, hurrah, everyone happy whatever day it is. It is Thursday day. It's Thursday. What's up, Bruno? By the way, Melissa, did you know there was a little Melissa eating right next to me? No, probably not. Love the story. The internet plus personal experience might be an explanation. What's your personal experience? Max, what are the chances? No, really, what are the chances? The chances of a miracle happening? Slim. Slim to none in some cases. Right? Why did Yahweh decide to send a natural disaster to his followers? I don't know. There's some stuff you just can't know. But the Bible says the rain shall fall on the good and the evil, right? No one is immune from the natural disasters of earth. And it's very hard. It's very hard to find a city like like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Where like literally nobody there is good. They had to get the one good guy out and his crummy little daughters who raped him. They had to get the one guy out to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. But you know what? Sometimes he'll destroy a city just because a lot of them are bad. Still some good. Sometimes natural disasters just hit. You know, you want to hear something you'd kind of call a miracle? So my uncle George lives in Iowa, Tornado Alley, right? And a tornado saved his life. What? That's impossible. How would a tornado save someone's life? So he heard the tornado sirens blaring. And so he did what you're supposed to do. He went into his bunker. He went into his basement. And he rode the tornado out as the tornado came and ripped his house away. Ah, shoot. I was just thinking, I think it was his basement's where all his taxidermy stuff is. It's probably down there with all these dead stuffed animals. And so the emergency services comes and, you know, looking for people, and they get him out of the basement because the basement, the stuff had fallen on it. So I don't know, maybe he had a cell phone on him and he called. I don't remember. It was a while ago. And my cousin told me this story. It was my uncle. And he didn't have a scratch on him because he was in his basement, right? But by routine, they have to take you to the hospital and run x-rays and stuff. They ran an x-ray on him. My uncle had a 98% blocked artery in his heart. Somehow, a tornado tearing his house apart above him didn't give him a heart attack and end him right there. But with a 98% blockage, you're guaranteed to eventually have a heart attack that will kill you. And so they discovered it before he had a heart attack and, put the stents in and all that. And he's still alive. And this was probably 20 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago. That's a miracle. I'd call that a miracle. And you know what? One where it was a natural disaster that probably cost other people, maybe even their lives. But it saved my uncle. Because see, you don't hear the stories about that, right? You don't hear these little side stories. If you'd have seen the news for that tornado, I guarantee you, 6 people dead, $500 million in damages, blah blah blah. You're not going to hear, this guy discovered he had a 98% blockage in his artery. That the fact that he had to get those x-rays saved his life. So you don't know the tapestry of everything that happens. It's beyond any one person's comprehension that kind of stuff does happen. It certainly happened for my uncle. That is a personal testimony, a personal story in my family. He was an agnostic too, because like him and my dad, my aunt was an ex-nun, but yeah, my uncle was agnostic. And I think my cousin told me that he had gotten saved since then. I think that miracle probably had something to do with it. So I have a very low bar for miracles. I don't know. Maybe you have a way too high a bar for miracles. Like that you will never believe any of them happen. The Bible does not claim the Antichrist is a Muslim. No, the Bible describes the Antichrist, things the Antichrist does, the people who follow the Antichrist. And then you go over to the Quran and you discover the guy that's being described in the Bible is the guy that's described in the Quran as their Mahdi. Their Messiah, basically, is described as the guy doing all the stuff in the Bible that is the Antichrist. You could go research this yourself. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it is pretty. And no, the word Muslim wasn't around when the Bible was written. It's a miracle. LOL. Life itself is a miracle. That's true. You believe in a miracle, Max. Mine is if the laws of physics are broken, I can't reject evidence if none is presented. Okay, well, then you believe in the miracles because you believe in abiogenesis, right? You believe that random molecules coalesce themselves into all the fine machinery required to become a living cell. That goes completely 100,000% against the laws of physics. So you, sir, believe in the great miracle. Belief comes after being convinced by evidence. Willingness to believe, however, is required. If you will not believe, you cannot be convinced. And this works both ways, right? You've seen this work the other way, so you have to understand that it works for you too. Don't pretend that you are just so logical, so rational, you know. PC Joseph, people believe in some things and not others. People who want to believe something look for reasons to believe because it makes them feel better. Yeah, I'll give you an example from the whole flat earth thing. So people believe firmly in the flat earth, right? Most people. And they say, well, you just need to show some evidence. Show me some evidence that the earth is a sphere. And so I can't remember who it was, but somebody took a group of flat earth influencers. Sorry, the word escaped me. Down to Antarctica. And they showed them the 24-hour sun, which flat earthers say proves the earth is not flat because there is no actual 24-hour sun in the South Pole. And they showed it to them. And a bunch of them came back and just, I think maybe some of them said, well, maybe that part of the model is wrong or something. But some of them just quit being flat earthers because they're like, oh, well, crap, that doesn't work. They got crucified. A bunch of those guys, not technically crucified. They got like attacked because they came back and they said, okay, there's evidence that this doesn't. There's evidence that proves the earth is a globe. This piece of evidence that we've all been hanging on to is wrong. But there were people who would not believe because they would not believe. It doesn't matter what evidence you put in front of them, they will not believe. It is an act of will. You have to be willing to be convinced. Otherwise, there's no convincing, which means to you, you say, there's no evidence. No, you just don't accept the evidence because you will not believe. It's all an act of, say it with me, the will. God wanted to kill that one guy. Look, every life is in the hand of God. So maybe, I don't know. I can't say what God does and doesn't want. I can't say, I mean, in that terms. I can't say why God does things. I understand that can be a huge problem for someone who will not believe, because the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. Right? No one here gets out alive. Everybody dies. Everyone gets one lifetime. If that lifetime is 6 minutes, or if that lifetime is 60 years, that's what you get. So why God will choose what he chooses? I don't know, man. Mad Max. The siren saved his life. The bunker saved his life. Okay, you know what? The siren didn't have an act of will. The bunker didn't have an act of will. The doctors didn't have an act of will. It was a discovery forced upon him by the circumstances. See, you're just clearly a cynical believer that there's no such thing, and you cannot be convinced. So don't ask me for evidence, okay? Don't ask me for any more evidence. Don't ask me for evidence of miracles. Don't ask me for evidence of anything, because you simply wouldn't accept any of it. So you're an example of what they call throwing pearls before swine. Yes, smash the like button, please, and thank you. PC Joseph, do you hear stories often about what a god did that was good? You do hear stories often about what a god did that was good. Rarely do you hear about the awful things like sending natural disasters. We hear about natural disasters all the time. There were no Muslims back then. They couldn't describe something, but they couldn't name it. They could describe something, but they couldn't name it. Yeah, all of the groups, all of the land masses that join the Antichrist army are laid out, and you can look at them on a map, overlay that with the modern map, and you will see that they are, every single one, Muslim nations. What am I to make of that? Tanner, I'm late, but I'm glad to catch the end of it. Well, yeah, there's like 20 minutes left. What's up, Tanner? God sends natural disasters that destroy people that most people don't talk about it, but talk about God helping them find car keys. Okay, again. The rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. Their natural disasters affect the just and the unjust alike. I wish the earth was flat. I love that whole story about the ice wall and undiscovered continents. It is a great story. I mean, it sounds really cool. It does. It really does. I know about Admiral Byrd. Do you know? Most of those guys believe, because the Bible implies it's flat. He sits upon the circle of the earth, hung upon nothing. That doesn't sound like a flat earth. I don't understand the Christians that say you aren't Christian unless you believe the flat earth, as if it means you don't believe in God. I don't understand that either. I know they think that the whole globe earth and space, and that was all concocted in order to make people believe that the universe could create itself or something like that. I don't know. But I think that's just dumb. The universe created itself. Life formed from random molecules being hit by lightning. They gathered together and formed rotors and well, let's see. You know what? I want to put, and you know what? Maybe not. I only got 15 minutes left. How can the earth be flat when it's clearly hollow? How else could the mustache man flee to Agartha? I love the hollow earth theory. That's so cool. My fictional world, the Blacklist universe, is actually a hollow earth model, like the Godzilla movie. If you guys didn't pay attention, the Godzilla movie is a hollow earth movie, or it's a hollow earth. Has anyways. Tanner says the earth is an egg. It's a giant dinosaur egg. The only thing left to speculation is what kind guesses anyone. We're all on our way out the second we get here. That's right. That is correct. People find car keys if they believe in God or not. That's the point. No difference, so don't tell us God helped you find your car keys. People do find car keys. Although I have a set of car keys that I cannot find. God has not helped me find those yet. I honestly think my daughter took them to her house and then lost them because they disappeared about the time that she left, that she moved out. Yesterday you said that you draw at night. Do you do lives or something of your drawing? Yeah, I do. Hold on, let me open it up and I'll send you the link. I draw on Whatnot. Whatnot. Oh, actually, I don't have any streams lined up. Where is it? Refer. Copy. Oh, that's a seller. I don't want to refer a seller. I want to refer a buyer. All right. Here's the link. My Whatnot channel. As I understand, the belief that makes Christians is Jesus. True. Agartha and Hyperborea are fun too. I like going down those schizo rabbit holes, even if I don't believe in them. Yeah, you don't have to believe in them. They're great stories. Me too. Hollow Earth Theory. I love it. I do too. I'll thank God for the good times and bad times, and the bad times make the good times so much better. Yeah, and sometimes you have bad times and good times at the same time. Right? Like you'll have one thing going horribly wrong for you, but another thing is going horribly wonderfully for you. And it's like, that's just life. And so what do you focus on? Do you focus on the misery the bad thing brings or could bring if you just let it? Well, that's why God says not to worry. Don't worry about that stuff. Look, my perspective, and I'm not inviting God to visit travesty upon me, but my perspective is if you're alive, everything else is just a hassle. As long as you have life, as long as everyone you love is alive, everything else is just a hassle. If somebody dies, that's more than a hassle. Actually, if you're, in excruciating pain, that's more than a hassle too. But like situational stuff, car accident, whatever, as long as everybody's fine, it's just a hassle. Some hassles are speed bumps, some hassles are the Grand Canyon, but it's all just a hassle. Do I have to pay for Whatnot? No. Negative. Peace of Joseph. People have prayed to Vishnu God and were healed. Did Vishnu God heal them? Can you give me an example? The only miracles I could find in the not, what is it called? Buddhism. God, what the heck? Hindu. In the Hindu, I looked up Hindu miracles, and it was like these cows drinking, these porcelain cows drinking water, or no, drinking milk, which is really weird. I do believe that's really weird. Do I believe that's God doing that? No, but do I believe in demons? Yeah. I believe demons can perform things that are outside the scope of the physical, i.e., or outside the scope of the metaphysical, which would to us look like miracles. Yeah, Jesus says that the Antichrist will perform miracles. So clearly, that is a thing that can happen. By the way, Mike, you believe in pre-Noah floods. I do think it happened a few times already. Pre-Noah floods? No, there wasn't even rain prior to Noah's flood. Not in my belief. Not the way I believe the the model works. I believe there was a ice canopy over the earth. Maybe ice. Probably ice. I think that's what the firmament was. It was probably ice. And I believe when that broke, probably by like a meteor storm, that collapsed our atmosphere. And that's why you see flash frozen mammoths and woolly rhinos and stuff like that. You can't really flash freeze something while it's chewing without something extreme like that happening. A mammoth couldn't like fall into a lake and just sit there chewing so that the vegetation in his mouth still has the tooth imprints. And its stomach would probably fill with water, and stomach, its lungs, everything. And that wouldn't flash there. No. The Antichrist will come find your keys and park your car in a timely manner. Terrifying. Well, I mean, AI will come park your car now. Dum dum dum. I like how you're just Corpse Brandon, you just dismissing it. I'm telling you, just look. You think God? Okay, you don't think God anything because you don't think God exists, and you will not be convinced otherwise. I love that you're here, but all you're doing is being obstinate and mocking that. Even if you don't want to call it miraculous, extraordinarily unlikely things happen in my life coincidentally when I'm praying to God for them. And this happens to pretty much every Christian, right? Everyone here has told you a testimony of something that is extraordinarily unlikely, but just happened to happen when they prayed to God for it. At some point, when you realize that every Christian has testimonies like this, at some point, you have to think, well, gee, these extraordinarily unlikely things coincidentally happen when these people are praying to Jesus an awful lot more than you would probably normally find on the chart of coincidental norms. No? You're just going to pass everything off as a coincidence? I think that is your will. You will not be convinced. The Bible also mentions a global flood at the very beginning of creation when the earth was covered in water. Gosh, I didn't think about that. That's true. And then the earth was gathered into one point, Pangea, and there was one earth and one sea. That's interesting. I had not thought about that. Thank you. Agree, those mammoths are very, very important evidence. You called those miracles and said he would perform miracles. Winning the lottery is unlikely, but people seem to win. Okay, every answer to prayer isn't a miracle. Every answer to prayer isn't a miracle. It's an extraordinarily unlikely thing that happens coincidentally when the person is praying for it. What do you want, dude? You're just denying that these coincidences are awful darn coincidental when people are praying for it. And it happens to Christians all the time. Ask any Christian in here, tell me an interesting answer to prayer. I've told you the one about my dad, right? My dad being. It's not a miracle. But dang, that's a coincidence. So just real quick rundown on my dad. Oh gosh, I could tell you the story about my dad dying again. But that would take me 20 minutes. The simple one. My dad was frugal. Let's just say he was frugal. He never gave me nothing. He never gave me money. He's like, go out there and do it all yourself, blah, 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 blah. Super frugal dude. And one time I owed the IRS $12,000 and I was desperate and scraping and I didn't want to, they send me these threatening letters and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just need $12,000. And I didn't tell anybody about it because it was embarrassing. And then out of the blue, I'm just making this a very short version of it. My dad calls me and he's like, Mike, I'm sending you a check for $12,000. He didn't know. He sent my brother a check for $12,000 too. Why? Because he coincidentally, at the exact same time I actually needed exactly $12,000, he was reading a book called You Can't Take It With You. He's still an agnostic, right? He was an agnostic until like 3 days before he died. And the book said, if you're planning on leaving money to someone when you die, give them the money now so that you can watch them enjoy it. Now, he wanted to give us more than $12,000, but at the time, again, frugal, right? So he's like, he had money. My dad had money. He could have given me like 50 grand. But why $12,000? Because that was the IRS tax exemption for gifts. So even just to prove the point that he was frugal, he wasn't going to give me $15,000 because the $3,000 wouldn't be a tax exemption. So he gave me the 12. So funny. Anyways, yeah, you couldn't. Like, you can chalk that up to coincidence, but just realize, look in the mirror, grab a mirror, look at it and say, I just won't believe. It doesn't matter what anyone shows me. I will not believe. That's you. A miracle could happen in your own life, and you will not believe. If prayers worked at a better rate than hospital care, the churches would be full and the hospital would only exist for atheists. Corpse grinder, do you want to believe there's a God? Answer the question just directly, yes or no. Do you want God to be real? The lottery is a game of chance, not a miracle. Yeah. God could show up in front of him to face to face and would probably think he was hallucinating. Right. He'd find an excuse. A God, yes. Why? Ask any non-religious person if really good and unusual things have happened in their lives. Of course, they do happen. Your God, as described in the Bible, no. So you want to believe in a creator God that oversees your life and the universe. Yes? Yeah, of course, good and unusual things happen. No, you don't want to believe in a creator God that you are accountable to. Then why did you say yes, a God? You want a deist God that you can therefore explain a biogenesis with, but then you are not accountable to because you don't want to be held accountable for your life. Two things are going to happen if you're in your life if you're going to be born, and that's already happened, and you'll die. Yet to happen can't live forever. We don't live for this life, we live for God. I don't know if I read that right. and go to heaven or be resurrected. All right, Corpse Grinder, I have an assignment for you. If you really do want to believe in a God, I want you to pray to the one true God. Don't give him a name. Just pray earnestly. One true God, if you are out there. Take the scales off my eyes, remove my pride and my doubt, and show me who you are, and give me eyes to see who you are. Pray that, something like that, in earnest. Will you do that? Will you do that? I'm not going to get into anything else because I'm over time. Will you do that? You too, PC Joseph. Corpse Grinder, will you do that? Will you pray to the one true God to reveal himself in your life? It's a very simple question. You have before? Continue to. And will you do it now? And did you do it in earnest, or were you just, no thanks? So you won't pray. Then why do you say you want to believe in God? You don't want to believe in God. Otherwise, you'd want him to reveal himself to you. PC, same question to you. Do you want to believe in God? I'm just going to let this go a little bit because I want answers. Do you want to believe in God? Billy, do you want to believe in God? Yeah, DJ, I'm going to wrap it up. I just want to get answers from these guys. I know it only takes 11 seconds for them to hear it, and it only takes 1 second to type yes or no. Oddly, they're not answering. Because as I started with, guys, it is an act of will. You will not believe if a man should rise from the dead if you do not want to believe in God. Notice the lack of answers from the atheist crowd. It's an act of will. So when they come to you and they say, can you prove it? Show me evidence. Can you blah, blah, blah. And then you throw your pearls before swine. Dude, you do not even know if there may be more than one God. You just believe crap. I don't care if God exists or not. You couldn't just say no. You couldn't just say no. You don't want to know. You don't want to know God. You don't want there to be a God. It's fine if you don't. Just be intellectually honest about it, you freaking crybaby. Why would you ask me to pray to a God I don't believe in? Because if you want to believe in a God and you pray in earnest for him to reveal himself, what's the matter? Are you afraid he will? Are you scared that God you don't believe in will answer your prayer? You know what that means? It means you believe in him. Thanks for showing up, everybody. God bless. Have a great day.